When it comes to DACA, the common argument trotted out is they were not brought in of their own volition. It was their parents who committed the crime, and so they, the dreamers, should not be held responsible for the crime of their parents. That's all well and good, but the same yardstick is not being applied when it comes to other things, such as reparations that BLM continues to ask for. Did I say ask? I meant demand. Nobody currently alive was a slave. Well, maybe they were, if they grew up in the Middle East and were subject to the slavery that is still rampant over there. Then, maybe. In that case, though, they should go and demand reparations over there. Oh, wait. If they did that, they'd likely be shot on sight, and they certainly wouldn't be offered the opportunity to make their argument. Nobody currently alive in the United States was a slave owner either. Now, I'm sure you're wondering where I'm going with this. In South Africa right now, white farmers are being killed and raped indiscriminately due to an effort to restore land back to African citizens. In the post-apartheid constitution, it is stated, the state must take reasonable legislative and other measures within its available resources to foster conditions which enable citizens to gain access to land on an equitable basis. Section 25 of this Bill of Rights also states that the government can take measures to expropriate property, but only in cases where land reform is the purpose. In this case, the state must provide compensation. This compensation must be just and equitable, reflecting an equitable balance between the public interest and the interest of those affected. This also required the landowner to be willing to sell the land to the state at market value. This, of course, has ended up being a slow process over the course of the past 2 decades. This has caused impatient Black South Africans to vote, changing the Constitution. Julius Malema of the Economic Freedom Fighters Movement introduced a bill to revise Section 25, removing the part that allowed white landowners to be subject to compensation. To quote Malema, "The time for reconciliation is over. Now is the time for justice. We must ensure that we restore the dignity of our people without compensating the criminals who stole our land." This new bill has been backed by the new South African president, Cyril Ramaphosa. The bill was backed by, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa. The bill passed with a vote of 241 to 83. That's quite the ratio. You could say that white people in South Africa got ratioed. Or not. What does this mean for white people in South Africa? It means that as of August 30th, if the bill passes Parliament, that the government can look at your land, then look at you, and seeing that you are white, take your land by force without compensation, based purely on your skin color. Now, when did apartheid end in South Africa? In 1994, officially. Now, I'm sure that there are some farmers in South Africa that were part of the white supremacist colonization project and complicit in apartheid. That said, however, what happens if you're white, but you were born after 1994? It appears that over the past 2 weeks, with a rash of killings making headlines, that things like that aren't taken into account. Now, what do you think of the situation going on in Africa right now? Do you even know about it? Please leave your thoughts in the comments section. For now, we're going to go ahead and move on to American soil for this next subject. The Second Amendment, again. So, businesses are now throwing their hat into the political game by cutting ties with the NRA, or in the case of Dick's Sporting Goods, refusing to sell firearms to anyone under the age of 21. Now, under federal law, the minimum age to buy a handgun from a licensed dealer is 21. So this seems like a lot of virtue signaling, especially saying that they're going to do something that they were already doing. Beyond that, despite their virtue signaling, Dick's Sporting Goods will not be able to stop 18-year-olds from buying a gun from a private unlicensed seller, as that is, by federal law, the age at which you can buy a gun from an unlicensed seller. That said, when it comes to the case of rifles such as the AR-15, the minimum age of purchase from a licensed dealer drops to 18. There are people who suggest that they are going to put into motion a class action lawsuit against Dick's because of this. According to John Vernick, co-director of the Johns Hopkins Center for Gun Policy and Research, federal law is a floor rather than a ceiling. It sets minimum standards and states can go above that. No word, however, on private businesses. Now, do you think we should abolish the Second Amendment? Do you feel like gun control laws should be put into place, possibly limiting the Second Amendment to shotguns and handguns? Or do you believe, as I do, that it comes down to more stringent policies when it comes to background checks, and that maybe the people doing these checks actually need to do their job? Please leave your feedback in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Now, do you believe, as I do, that anyone who sees the world as a power struggle between races and views everything through the lens of race is a racist? You do? Great. Let's move on then. In Corsicana, Texas, a popular gorilla statue at a playground was removed after complaints that it was racially insensitive. This gorilla statue had stood in the playground for 20 years with no problem. A cage had been put over it amid fears that the gorilla, being top-heavy, could fall and hurt someone climbing on it. Sounds reasonable. This offended dainty little snowflakes, and the statue was removed. A makeshift memorial for the gorilla has been put up, and a petition for the statue to be returned has reached more than 2,300 signatures. In response to the backlash, Corsicana City Council member Jeff Smith admitted that the decision to remove the statue was rushed into and announced that the statue would indeed be returned to the park as soon as weather permitted. 1 point for cooler heads, 0 for virtue signaling racists. Lastly here in this video, a piece of conjecture from me. Having seen a great number of comments online and testimonials from people online relating to living in communist countries, I've begun to wonder, did Russia indeed tamper with the 2016 election? Did they purposely make it so that Trump won? Now, stick with me here. They live in a communist hellhole. They know, though, that if they escape, they can come to this wonderful capitalist country and actually have a chance at a real life. Now, their hopes might be dashed if Democrats get in and start pushing leftist policy, slowly turning this country into a totalitarian regime. Well, that wouldn't bode well for those who are attempting to escape to come here now, would it? If I were a Russian 20-something with exceptional hacking skills and friends who were quite the same, maybe, just maybe, I might want to assist in rigging the system to ensure that capitalism remains strong in the country I feel destined to come to. Now, I know that there are some of you who might think I'm completely off my rocker at this point. Now, though I am most assuredly off my rocker, this was simply an exercise in attempting to see things from the other side's point of view. I don't necessarily believe it, but I can at least see it. I would encourage all of you to do the same. Attempt to see why the other side is doing what they do. Are they truly malicious? Are they simply ignorant of the issues? Do they feel like they are the good guys even when they are the bad guys? You know, kind of like that one scene. Was it in Blackadder where the one Nazi turns to the other and says, do you suppose we're the baddies? Didn't do a British accent, but whatever. Being able to see things from another person's point of view is an important part of being a contributing adult in this world. If you lack this skill, I encourage you to work on it like it's the most important thing you could ever do. That's the only way to uncover truth in all things. Now, as always, if you liked this video, please hit that like button and be sure to subscribe, as I do post videos almost every day. In the meantime, stay cool. Bye. Hey, also, I'm trying out a new format here where I'm actually like typing it out long form and trying to read it out. I've got to get a better system for doing this. But tell me what you thought of it. Did you like it? Do you think I should just go back to doing it straight off the top of my head? Put it in the comments. All right, bye.